Nothing gets the Labor Party and their union mates more excited than a good old-fashioned privatisation scare. They love that political play, even though, of course, it was Labor that sold off Qantas and the Commonwealth Bank. They like to forget that now. And they often run fear campaigns about so-called privatisations, even when they know they're not happening, like their infamous Medi scare in 2016. So you'd have to be naive to think there was anything going on except desperate politics when the Prime Minister announced these new laws this morning.
We've introduced legislation into the House today that safeguards the future of the NBN, making sure it can't be privatised, sold off or hollowed out, because there's never been a public service or asset that the Liberal Party didn't want to carve up and sell off. That is what they do.
Hang on, no one's been talking about flogging off the NBN lately, have they? You probably wouldn't get your money back on it now, given all the taxpayers' money that's been pumped in, not to mention the way wireless and satellite internet is taking over. But the great hypocrisy here is that it's Labor who all along, right from the very start, was planning to sell off the NBN. Here's Kevin Rudd making the NBN announcement in 2009.
The government will make an initial investment in this company but intends to sell down its interest in the company within 5 years after the network is built.
Yeah, privatisation was Labor's plan, and Rudd repeated it a number of times in that media conference. It's a nation-building decision, Rudd said, humble as ever. But once it's up and running and delivering those services, then we would, within that 5-year period, sell it to the private sector. This position was repeated ad nauseum by Labor under Julia Gillard and then even after Albanese was elected, although they've gradually hedged backwards about when and if they'd sell it off. So while Labor is obviously trying to create a privatisation debate in the lead up to the election because they're desperate for a distraction, the real story here is that Labor has backflipped on its own policy. And as expected, the NBN will always be there as a risk for taxpayers, not private investors. Effectively, Labor's admitted that the NBN will never make the promised profit for taxpayers. Instead, it will remain a cost and a risk for taxpayers. And just because taxpayers own the NBN doesn't mean the broadband giant is stingy with its executives. Its most recent chief executive, Stephen Roux, was paid more than $3 million a year. He resigned in May and took his $1.4 million payout to Optus. The NBN has 6 other executives being paid more than $1 million a year. Yeah, apparently we've got to keep the NBN in government hands to keep prices down and keep those nasty capitalists at bay. Nice work if you can get it.